Welcome back to GyrlSense. I'm Maria del Carmen, your host. And today's guest is one of my ultimate favorites. So ultimate favorite.
Why, thank you very much.
Pastor Donnamarie Brown.
Thank you, Maria.
And I will say, welcome back home.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
So you were here last 2 years ago, was it?
I want to say 16 or 17. It's been a while.
Oh, so you were in my first season. Oh my gosh, we have to celebrate after that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And I know that I brought you on during that period of time. You're correct, because I remember bringing you on because there was so much, not that there isn't pain today, but there was a different type of pain during that era, particularly for Black and brown people, which, you know, it's not really different today. It's
right.
just it's escalator, elevator, or it's different. But back then, politically, it was just a sad time, and there was a lot of loss and mental loss and emotional loss and so forth. So, you know, just parallel today, I feel like we're in the same kind of boat. Yeah. Which is why I brought you back. I needed to fuel my soul again. Because it was during November, because I wanted just your grace and to lead us into the holidays. It is a giving season.
Yes.
We're in a giving season.
Giving thanks.
Giving thanks, you know, appreciation, feeling gratitude, you know, all of that. So let's kind of pick up where we last left off a little bit. And for some backstory, just for the record, you and I actually initially met.
That would date us more.
Maybe 2007?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Initially, I think. Yeah, so 2007, and it was during our undergrad, and where we decided as adults we wanted to finish our education.
Yes.
And so this wonderful program came along, and we found ourselves there, and that's how I initially met you.
And pushed our way through it, didn't we?
Pushed our way through it.
Those weekends, those Saturday all-day classes were long and hard.
12 hours every single Saturday for almost 3 years.
Yes. But we made it.
We made it. And we just touched upon your stating, as I mentioned, why am I thinking you're Donnamarie Woods? And you're like, well, that's because back then, you know, we were in school and I was getting married and we were in a project and you made me finish the project.
Yes, you were tight on that ship.
Yes, I'm like, you're getting married? Okay. We got things to do.
Yes. You can do both.
We're getting this degree. We can do both. We're here because you could make it. So again, congratulations to that.
Thank you.
And so from that moment, so now you're Pastor Brown. That came afterwards, and I believe, or I know for a little bit you moved out of state. So, you know, just tell me kind of like your journey. Like, where's home now?
Oh my.
Yes.
Wow, we have a lot of catching up to do, don't we? Well, when we graduated, I finally decided to pursue higher education even still.
Yes.
To get my master's in divinity.
Yes.
I went to Bethel Seminary of the East at first, and then it went on to Bethel Seminary of St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay.
And then I eventually graduated in 2019.
Okay.
But in the process of the journey, married, death of a child, divorced, and finding my way after graduation. How do I once again reinvent myself? Through grief.
Yes.
I think that journey in itself allowed me to grow and learn more about myself, my relationship with God, and to learn how to be of better service to other people.
Okay.
So shortly after graduation, a friend of mine that I closely work with now told me about the position at Hartford Healthcare at Home Hospice to be a pastoral counselor.
Yeah.
And here I am as a counselor for Hartford Healthcare at Home.
Isn't that such a full circle? My
And
goodness.
I think it was either you or one of our other classmates that said, what are you going to do after you get your bachelor's degree? And I was just like, I'm going to be a chaplain. And it's like, what? No MBA, no pursuing business.
That was me. You know that was me.
Like, what's the next thing cooking, Donnamarie? Like, I'm going to be a chaplain.
You
like,
know
really?
that was me.
Where did that come from? That was not in one of our projects.
Maria project. Always pushing. Always pushing.
You were always the one
my
pushing the
sisters.
Yes.
Always pushing my sisters.
Yes,
But I
you
look
did.
back and I see all of us. And
blossom
we
into
are
wonderful.
just doing fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. So that really warms my heart, you know, at large. So, you know, so much to be grateful, just even knowing you. And again, you know, very, very sorry for your loss when it happened. You know, I know that I saw you then as well. So, and I know that has been, it's a different type of what do I do next.
Yeah.
It's not like we finish school, what do I do next? You know, you start a new job, you know, whatever. It's not that kind of what do I do next? Because that's not something one plans for.
Exactly.
There's no next.
No.
There's no next.
No.
In that zone area. So I commend you for pushing through that.
Thank you.
Pushing through that, because I know that it's very hard for most. I know not that it wasn't hard for you, but some individuals are still there and remain there for possibly sometimes the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And there was never a next for them. So I commend you for taking everything that came at you and molding it into just holistic peace.
Thank
you.
you.
Holistic peace. And that is how I've always viewed you as well. And you should remember that even during school, I think we probably already had we began calling you Pasta.
Yeah, I just had this preachiness about me.
So it was like, you know, you're in your element. And not to say that that was your next, but I think that was your savior.
I believe it was for several reasons. I am a big believer in using life experience to tell the story, to help other people who are going through a similar thing see that there is light at the end of the tunnel, give them hope, to let them know they're not alone, that there are other people that can support them in the midst of their sorrow, grief, life challenges, difficult decisions to make. So I am a big believer that everything in our lives can be used for some good, somewhere, somehow, even when we least expect it, somehow it shows up.
Yes, I do believe that as well. As, you know, even there's been personal and professional life changes even amongst myself, and that was exactly the journey, just utilizing the life experience to just progress, you know, for whatever is next. And sometimes we need that. But I do believe, particularly, and this has always been my message in anything that I do, that sometimes as women, right? So as women, we are just we're born caretakers.
Oh,
like we come out of the womb and we're taking care of something.
We got a doll. We're learning how to dress the doll, bathe the doll, carry the doll, feed the doll.
Yes. We're like worrying, like what is happening in the house. You're not doing this, all of that. So it starts like we're born with that. So, then, adulthood comes in, and of course, you become a parent, spouse, and then it's just more and more layers of pushing you back, right? Of taking care of even more. We were taking care of something that didn't need to be taken care of, and then when there was something, it was like you're not even thinking about yourself, and then that could take decades before you realize, well, what about me, right? Well, what about me? And so I do, it takes courage. It takes courage. It's, and I'm not even sure it has to do with self-esteem. I think it's just courage to want to move forward from that without guilt.
Absolutely.
All right, because that's another thing that we, as females, always we just. Oh, I want to buy this dress. Oh, no, I won't buy that. I'll just get this other thing for like my daughter or something. Yeah. Oh, I want. But why? Like, why do we do that? Why did we do that?
I'm still trying to get the answer to that question myself, as I now have 2 wonderful granddaughters, and just want to give and make sure that they have.
Yeah.
But in this season of my life, I am learning how to take care of myself. Yes. It's like you raise the children. I've downsized. Now I'm an empty nester.
Yes.
What do I do? What is that next?
Right.
And I think for us as women, we tend to cater to everyone else. And along the way, we forget what it is we like. What is it, our dreams?
Yes.
How do we bring that about? We make sure our children have and are able to go to college or able to go to that prom, have that first date, telling them the ins and outs of life, and take care of the home, cook the meals, go to the PTA, drive them to different sports and activities, but then we neglect ourselves.
Yes.
So a lot of times I do talk to women about self-care.
Yes.
How do you take care of yourself? Because it's more than just getting your hair and your nails
Absolutely.
done. You can beautify, but what about the inside?
Yes.
Mental health is a big thing.
Yes.
So to have your own health and well-being, find the things that make you happy, that make your soul sing. For me, it's education. So I don't know. I don't think I told you this, but I'm going back to school. Got to get that next master's degree,
I created a monster.
Yes, you did.
Holy moly. No,
but
you didn't.
I like learning. So I like information, processing it, feeding it to others to help better themselves. And that's what's going to propel me to have some good self-care. Yes, it's going to be kind of tedious on the brain at first, but in the long run, I think it will help me develop even more to be of more service to others. That's my end goal, being of service to others. For other women, it could be adventure, seeing the world, like my sister here, who likes to post a lot of pictures of where she travels, Travelnista. For others, it's art and painting and dance, and for others, it's exercise and just taking care of their body. It's more than just getting your annual checkups. It's about your total well-being, body, mind, and spirit, right? Putting together some spiritual practices, whether it's sitting in nature or being part of a gospel choir. I know Windsor High School has the gospel choir. Prayer time, fellowship with friends and family, going on spiritual retreats. when I was grieving the loss of my son, and had moved to Alabama to be with my daughter for a full year so we could grieve together, I had an opportunity to go on retreat at a Benedictine monastery.
Okay.
Stayed 3 days, and it was a true spiritual awakening for me, because one, you can't talk. You're eating in silence.
Yes.
You're walking the hall and the campus in silence. You're listening to different music and their worship services. And while I was in my brick wall room of a monastery, they had a desk. I brought paper and pen.
Oh, God.
And I just wrote and unburdened and listened to God speak to my spirit so that I could heal properly.
Yes.
So I think as women, we need to find those things that speak to us to heal us.
Yes. And a lot too, that healing, when you begin that healing, whatever your modality that you choose to do for your healing process, as what happened with me through sound healing, it's like there's a lot of like old stuff that you have put away for a long time because you're raising a family, because you're worrying about everything else. So once all of you unearth everything, you're not just healing the today, but you're really healing decades from childhood, whatever may come up, right? So when you say mind, body, and soul, and spiritually, it really is like when you do take that time for yourself, like truly take that time for yourself, like the retreat, and just being by yourself.
I think a lot of times people don't know how to be by themselves.
They do not.
Because they don't like themselves. So they can't sit with themselves.
Right, and they're sad. And it's sad to know that they're sad, you know, but it's just one of those things they have to find out for themselves their own way. You can't point it out because we may be wrong, and it's not for us to point it out for them. It's for them to figure it out on their own. We can just support them
in the
journey. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And also like doing nothing is something.
Did you know that?
But again,
did you have to find that out?
But again, as women, doing nothing is like, I say women, I'll start off with as women, doing nothing it's almost like, who's watching me do nothing? Because how am I going to be thought of that I'm not doing something for someone? As the culture, like in the States, you know, as the U.S. culture here, doing nothing, you are just considered lazy, right? And so, no, doing nothing is something. It's removing all of the daily stresses, you know, it's recuperating from whatever your hard day. So you go home and you do nothing.
Because you've been doing something
all day long.
So for me, because of the work that I do in hospice, it takes and requires a lot of listening, intentional listening, and caring for the sadness, the grief, the anticipated loss of a loved one, that on Saturdays, I sit and do nothing.
Yes.
I call it my Sabbath rest.
Yes.
And we need that to
You do need that as
rejuvenate.
healers. You need that because of that. Because not only are we trying to balance ourselves, our lives, but now you're taking in everyone else's energy, right? And so that can bounce off and like, woohoo.
Were you on the phone with me today? I think I was having a few of those moments.
Sometimes I get home and I'm just like, I'll just drop everything And I'll just sit on my steps, like, and I'll be like, okay, what was that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, what happened today?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I make my way to the bedroom, you know, just to do nothing. But you just have to release it all.
Absolutely.
You can't keep it, because then
Please
that
don't.
becomes so
You can get sick from
unhealthy, and you
that.
can get sick from it.
Mhm.
Yes, yes.
And sometimes finding someone just to talk to about it. I like to debrief or decompress a little bit the day with some of my other coworkers, and just let them know I've had this happen, that happen. I tried to handle it this way. Do you have other suggestions? Then that way I can kind of unload, get it out my system, come home. No TV. I sit in solitude a lot because I'm listening and talking all the time. So I need quiet.
Yes.
No TV, no music. I throw the phone away for a little bit. I try to make something good for dinner, or I'll just stretch out on the couch and close my eyes. Sometimes I'll take a nap, and that nap ends up being 3 hours, unfortunately. But
Or fortunately.
or it could go into the next morning. Depends on how tired
And your body
drained.
needed that.
Exactly. So, and that's a good point too. Being mindful and paying attention to when your body is speaking to you,
Yes.
because we can hold a lot of tension in our bodies as well. So, taking that walk, yoga, meditation, sound. For me, it's music. I like listening to, it depends on what mood I'm in.
Yeah.
So if I'm up and I'm live and charged,
Yes.
3 cups of coffee later, I will get in my car and I'm pumping something with some bass to it. And I'm like, charge, carpe diem,
Yes,
seize the day,
yes.
right? And then there are other moments where my spirit feels soft. So the music that plays will be a
Yes.
more tender type of worship style to get me in a place to be present with my patient, you know. So music is good for me, sitting in silence.
Music is medicine, I tell you. Music is real medicine. It really can cure the soul, depending on, like you said. Having said all of this, now shifting a little bit, I want to get your insight, bringing to the pain and sorrow and loneliness, and so many people are just sad today. In particular, you know, just the people of color coming off of, you know, the era of George Floyd, and not really coming off, but having that, and then throw in the pandemic. You know, there's a lot of lonely, sad and lonely people. Mental illness, if it wasn't real before,
Oh, it's much more real now.
is much more real now. And so I run into it all the time. You know, typically, you know, people, you know, of color are like, well, you know, somebody at work said this, and there's triggers, right? Like there's so many triggers, and you can identify that when you're listening to them, and you can't like not do something, you know? So then you have to sit and talk and really get to like, you know.
Unpack it a little bit.
Yeah, exactly, just to make sure, you know, and give them resources of such. But it doesn't matter if the individual is 8 years old or 80 years old, female, male. The feeling, that sadness, that loneliness is equal. It's the same. And it's residue from what just happened, you know, like that was still big, you know, and many haven't moved from that. And we're still losing people because of the pandemic, and or because they're triggers for some individuals, they take it, you know, they may have, the dust may have settled for many years, you know, in particular if they, I don't know, if something happened here, up north, or if they were down south, something, and they have not been able to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And it's just like oozing out of their pores. They are just like, what do we do? Like, it is so much out there. So what is your, you know, just your senses towards that? What would you have to say if someone's listening and just feels lost?
I would say seek help. Counseling is not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of times, especially in the Black and brown communities, that it's taboo to say, I have a mental health issue, or to talk about the traumatic experiences that we've endured. Rape, incest, neglect, abuse, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, other things that are traumatic in our lives. It is not healthy to hold it in. Because like you were saying, you could be fine and then something happens and you're triggered and you are reliving that traumatic experience all over again. Also, it also plays with self-esteem. Whether you feel unloved, abandoned, rejection as a child, as a wife, as a husband, even bullying in school can be a problem for teenagers or young children in elementary school. And it's gotten that low into the elementary schools now.
It's gotten down to preschool.
Really?
Yes.
Didn't know that one.
It's bad.
But it's all traumatic. And you even mentioned the word residue. If it's undealt with and it creeps up and then you think you've dealt with it, but really you've only scratched the surface of it, there's residue that's left. So why not find a therapist or even a pastor or someone that is licensed to deal with mental health, because not all pastors are licensed if they haven't had mental health counseling experience or licensure in the state to do that type of work. But most pastors know how to refer. We can deal with the spiritual part of it and how it's causing your spirit distressed. But on the flip side, you need to maybe understand it with a diagnosis. Okay, there's a name for this. Now I can deal with it and learn more about it and how it is triggered, like PTSD, bipolar, any type of bipolar 1 or 2, manic. What does that mean? Other categories of like insomnia. What makes me feel like I can't sleep at night? How come I can't quiet my mind, my body to have a good sound sleep? What am I wrestling with? And then maybe it's even seeing your primary care physician that it's chemical. So we have to do the work to understand and listen to our bodies, our minds, the racing. Seek help. Don't be afraid. I'm just going to say it, end it with that. Don't be afraid to get help. You are not crazy.
And you're not alone.
Exactly.
You're not alone. There's so many individuals are in the same boat. And unfortunately, a lot does have to do culturally, because culturally, you know, even particularly for men, it's like we put shame if they cried.
Oh, I just want to let everyone know I have a soft spot in my heart for men that cry.
Okay, you guys heard that.
Call me. I will talk to you.
But they're conditioned, right? The elders, right? They've been conditioned, and they're only working with the tools that they had and where they came from, so you can't totally fault them, but we have to at some point break that cycle, because it is healing to cry, whether you're male, female, whatever age that it is. It's just a cleanse. You need that. So for some, they have that built-in tears for like probably all of their lives.
And wonder why they explode and get angry or can't communicate their feelings, because for so long they've sat on
0
it.
to 100. There's no in between.
None.
Unbelievable.
So men need to talk, and to find, some men feel comfortable talking to women about their issues. Others feel more comfortable talking to another man about it. But you have to talk to somebody. Can't hold it all in and consider yourself to be this strong macho type guy, because you don't know when and where you're going to break. You have to take the time to heal yourself. So why not relieve yourself of those cares, worries, concerns, frustrations, limitations, all of that.
And then there's, when you and I were growing up, obviously we didn't have social media.
Oh,
But
you
then,
mean face crack. I don't call it Facebook, I call it face crack.
And then, well said. And then, so, the exposure out there. So if you don't have the self-esteem, and then you are, you're watching all these videos of what you are assuming is the perfect whatever, and then you're wondering, why don't I look like that, or whatever, or that this person, that person, they got their thing going on or whatever, and then you're like, well, why don't I have that, and so forth, so add that. Add that to the pot of already being lonely and so forth. So I actually myself, I have noticed, so in the beginning when I was first on social media, it was more young women that I would see. Young, I mean, I'm 52, so young to me would be like, I don't know, in the 20s or whatever, who would be more of the, and I will say, provocative type, right on the edge, and I would have said, they're young.
Chalk it up to young
age. Whatever, and so forth. But now I'm like, what is happening? I'm like, there's mothers, whether they're wedded or not wedded, but like, and then they have their, their underage children, who are also, sharing. So I'm like, what is happening? I'm like, am I getting old? You're like, like, am I supposed to, is that supposed to be normal?
Is that the new thing
is
now?
Is it me? Is it me?
Am I that old? Am
I
not hip anymore?
What am I supposed to say, to that?
We weren't raised like that.
I don't know.
We learned how to be discreet with our meat, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people are not as discreet.
So I leave it there because, there is, when you're with the significant other, and even that has, whatever, I chalk that up, and these are all my personal opinions.
Okay.
I chalk it up to one category. But when you're an obvious, available individual, and I see what I see when I'm scrolling, I'm like, I feel scared for them. I'm like, do you not think, I really feel scared. Some of them I've actually unfollowed because my heart stops a little bit. I'm like, so what is that? Is it that loneliness? Is it that attention seeking? But for it to bleed over to 50-year-old, 40, to me, that's where, or even, you know, even more elder than me. And again, this could totally be my old, I'm getting old self.
There's just some things you're not going to play with, deal with, and put up with.
They could just, whatever. I mean, first and foremost, I celebrate being woman. I am the first one to say I celebrate being woman. I celebrate. I celebrate my body. As is, stretch marks, everything is good. It's all good. Like, I wear the bikinis. I pose in my bikinis. I do, whatever. So it's not even that, it's when, whether it's intentional or not, but what is perceived and received on the other end, when my eyebrow goes up, I'm like, what's happening here? My God, I just really feel scared for them.
Sometimes, like we said, attention seeking, sometimes people need to feel validated, like I'm good enough or I'm pretty, and feeding the ego to say, you look good, or you're beautiful, or I'd get with you kind of thing. And then there are some on the lonely scale looking for love in all the wrong places. So we should always be mindful of the information that we put out there, right? We don't want stalkers.
Right.
We don't want people to find us home alone or our home empty because we're not there and we're posting that we're in Cancun or some tropical island somewhere,
right,
and now you have someone staying in your home. Or I know for my daughter and I, we like to post pictures after the fact to say, we've been here, we've done this. We don't do it in the moment,
right?
Just for safety reasons.
Of course. I mean, if you live alone, that's the way to do it, right? Absolutely, yes. Yeah, so even for that audience, or not audience, but those users, those social media users, it's just yet another level of that big picture that we've been talking about, of there's so much healing that needs to be done, and people are just sad and they're just lonely, and it's just, and that also has to do with everything that's going on today. You know, I mean, it was there back in 2016, 2017, but now I feel that as bad as it was then, I feel like now it's deep.
Yeah, the climate has changed.
It's so deep.
And you have me thinking, when you first asked me to join you today, about the pandemic. And I don't know if you noticed, but when we couldn't go anywhere and we had to be with our families, we weren't so busy. People were spending time with their kids, learning about their children and their likes, dislikes, their personality. Family bonds at times were getting close, but on the flip side, there were more domestic violence issues going on, because now you're cooped up with somebody that you don't like, you were running away from to go to work. Now you're home with them in the house. But there was a sense of family. Now that we're not shut in anymore and we're back into our busyness, right? It seems to have been lost again. So my hope and prayer this holiday season, that people take a time to reflect what is truly important to them. Family, their neighbor. People were looking out for the elderly. People were like making sure people had things. Even though the shelves were pretty empty, people found a way to find that toilet paper to make sure that they or themselves had somebody else had some toilet paper, right?
Yeah. There's Lysol on aisle 3.
But now it's like that's all gone.
It is.
And we need to kind of come back to that just for a moment to realize what is truly important to us. I know we all have bills to pay. Mm-hmm. We all want to be outside, going to a restaurant and plays and things of that nature. But are you really getting time and spending the time getting to know one another again?
Yes. Yes.
And if you know someone who is lonely, and you kind of get a sense of their personality as not one to reach out, take a moment and reach out to them.
Yeah.
Call a friend. Check in. There's probably tons of people that you have now not spoken to in a year or two,
Right.
because life has ramped up for you and you are now back to being busy.
Right.
So.
And I tell you, speaking of which, during that time that we were all cooped up, right, that was my time for change. So 2020, so as you mentioned, the pandemic worked out really good for some, but it worked out really bad for others. And gratefully, I was on the other end where I needed that, because as we started, born female, I've always taken care of everyone, running, working, blah, 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 adult, at one point adult student, straight through, like undergrad, master's, straight through, 2007 all the way to 2012, full-time and working full-time and so forth. Finally, I couldn't do anything. Like, I had to sit in my home, then my home office, and as you said, I was able to reflect. And I did ask myself that question. And I think that a lot of us, during the chaos, the everyday chaos, we know what's working, what's not working. We just put our blinders on and we keep going, right? So during that period of time was when I was able to let go of the blinders, and I said to myself, what are you going to do? And that meant professionally and personally. And so professionally, I was like, am I happy?
That's a very important question.
Am I happy where I am? Is what I'm doing, satisfying my needs and so forth. Same thing personally. And it was then, actually, it was a weekend. I went to, I did do a 2-day meditation, and I came back, and I'm not sure what happened, but it was a new me. It was just a new me, and I made some really, really drastic changes, both ends. Personally, new job, new personal, whole everything. And so now looking back, I'm like, first of all, like, what took you so long?
You had to get to that place.
Right?
And at times, I like to think that, yes, pandemic bad, it killed people, but I like to say God tried to shut us down just a little bit.
You guys moving too fast.
Yeah.
You guys need to sit down.
And all y'all got issues. I need you to sit down and reflect. Peel back some layers and deal with some stuff. And you talked about being able to really look at what's important and what wasn't important. My daughter was able to start a business.
Oh my goodness.
In the midst of the pandemic. Now, she has a bakery.
Oh my goodness.
Home baker. And in the midst of the pandemic, she too had to ask herself those questions. What is going to make me happy? I want to be happy. My passion is cooking, baking. So that's what she started doing, putting together little recipes, baking up some items, kind of test running some things. She learned how to market her business on her own.
Goodness.
She learned how to establish the business through LegalZoom,
Yes.
coming up with different creative ways to brand her products and go out to the mall once the malls were starting to open up and do the kiosk. I mean, it was just like this little thought blossomed into this big idea, which has now catapulted her on social media,
Yes.
where she's posting all types of wonderful things.
Does she ship?
Unfortunately, they don't ship well. I tried. I'm sorry. They don't ship well. I said, I need some cupcakes.
That's
She
all
sent
right.
a
Where
big
do I have to
box.
buy a plane ticket to?
Somerville, Alabama.
Okay, then we're there.
Huntsville. But out of that came or birthed a new start for her in her life. And she learned how to listen to that prompting, right,
Yes,
on the
yes,
inside
yes.
to say, now is the time.
Yes.
This is how I want you to do it.
Yes.
These are the people I'm going to connect you with. So she signed up with many different groups and organizations in the area for small business people, people of color, organizations to promote one another in business. And she found so much information, but she had to be still in the midst of the pandemic to find out about it.
And that is how I was going. And I am so like, I'm listening to you, my hairs are standing up, because when I did that for myself, it was the same thing. It was like, once I thought, we're doing this. You know, we're gonna move and shake, you know, move this puzzle, you know. And when I started to do, it wasn't long. It was not long before so many other opportunities just poured in, and it wasn't anything I didn't have to work hard for. I mean, I worked hard up to that point, but when you open your heart and when you start to, as she said, you know, as you mentioned, like what's good for me, what's not good for me, then what's not good for you, you just move to the side. And when you move things to the side, that's when you're allowing for other stuff to come in. Is when you hold on to that, then you're blocking that, right?
Exactly.
You're blocking it.
Exactly.
So once I was able to like, okay, this ain't good, out. You ain't out.
It's not
out.
working. Yep,
Clean
out.
house, right? Clean house. And once that, I mean, I'm telling you, you know, and I too, just very organically, as we mentioned earlier, you know, just started. I wanted to get certified in sound healing, and I did, and now I'm a sound healer practitioner, and it's going wonderful. You know,
I got to come and see you.
You sure do. You absolutely sure do.
We'll talk more.
We'll
after.
talk. Absolutely. I do want you to tell me where you are, like your place of worship, when our services, and in what you do. If someone wanted to reach out to you to either speak to you directly or go to you for resources of such. Tell me, where are you?
Okay. Well, I do not have a physical location as a pastor, meaning I don't have my own church. Right now, I'm still in a place of healing, right? So I attend Redeemer's AME Zion Church in Plainville, Connecticut, where I do the spiritual coordination through Grief Share. I run a Grief Share group. And I also do a lot of the pastoral care to some of the members. When my pastor tells me, so-and-so needs you, can you go out for me? and I'll do that. I do have my own business, and it is called Spiritual Life Renewal.
Okay.
You can go online and find me, spiritualliferenewal.org, and you'll see my beautiful picture for pastoral care and grief and loss counseling. I share my own experiences, and in my website, I do talk about being able to go from crying to being able to laugh again, to be able to laugh and not feel bad that you're in the midst of your grief and yet you can still laugh, because a merry heart is like good medicine. That's what the word tells us, right? So I would love for people to find me, reach out to me. I do in-person visits. I also do virtual visits, Zoom. I do have an office space in Plainville, Connecticut, 106 Whiting Street. It's at the Meeting House. There's a sign outside that says the Meeting House. It's actually the meeting place for the church. The church is right next door. So I have a small office space there where I can meet with people in person.
Can I just tell you how much of a blessing you are to me?
Thank you.
You are
and
such
same to you.
a blessing to me all through school. And we laughed and cried then. And now we still laugh and cry for other reasons. But I do believe it really comes from a place of being grateful for one another, and for just, I believe, recognizing that we recognize that we have this responsibility.
To ourselves and others.
To ourselves and others, right? And so that's why we are able to lean each other. And even if years go by, it doesn't really matter, because when it's there,
it's organic.
It's organic and it's there. I do, in the spirit of it being giving thanks season, and Thanksgiving is coming up next week. Can you believe that?
No. And the price of turkeys, I'm praying that churches will have people that give turkeys to people, so no one has to worry about not having a turkey on the table this year.
Yeah,
They're
I did hear about that. So like, I've turned vegetarian, but I did buy a couple turkeys and put it in the bags at the grocery store for whatever cause it was. So I did my part.
Good. I hope people do more of that.
I did my part. But I do want to be showered with your blessing, with your words, your prayer words, so that it can last me until we meet again.
Absolutely, Maria. I would be honored to do that. Honored.
Yes.
Let's take a moment.
Yes.
Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this season of giving. You've allowed us to have many blessings throughout the year of love, family, health at times, healing, financial blessings, the gathering of family. And we even pray for those that have lost loved ones throughout the year, where there's an empty place at the table. I pray that you would bless them with your comfort, since you are the source of all comfort. May others gather around them and speak words of love and life, provide the help and support that they need to make it through the holiday season. We thank you for those that come and walk beside others who go through the valley of the shadow of death. We thank you for those that have healing hands with a touch, with medicine, with bedside manner, with advice on how to handle difficult situations, or even those that lead others to the resources that they need so they can thrive and succeed in life. Lord, I also pray that you bless Maria for the work that she does, for the healing she provides, for the nourishment of the soul that she gives to others. We thank you for this show, this ministry of hers, to talk to women, to be a light to other women, to help them see the need for self-care. We also lift up those that are going through mental health challenges during this holiday season. Remove the stigma, remove the residue. Help them to seek the help that they need, first from you and then a professional. We thank you for all the things that you are going to provide, not only right in this moment of prayer, but in the next moment and even the next one as they step and move towards their healing. All these things we ask, as well as give thanks for hearing our prayer, receiving our prayer, and answering our prayer. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're going to make, we're going to do this on camera now.
Thank you so much.